Well, welcome back this week to another analysis behind the news. And of course, we see ObamaCare is the main attraction. If you take a look at the newspapers, you'll notice that most of them, whether you're in Salt Lake or somewhere else around the country, the same photographer takes the photographs, and that's the ones that get into all the newspapers. Interestingly enough, the Republicans are dancing all over the place on this issue. Anywhere from let's repeal it, get rid of it, to, well, we need something better. For instance, in the Salt Lake Tribune, I find that Senator Orrin Hatch has an article in here that he wrote, or somebody wrote for him, wherein he says, scrap bad health care law and start over. To give you an idea of where he's coming from at the end, he says things like this. Before we can even undertake these much-needed reforms, we have to scrap Obamacare and start over. Then we can move forward with real step-by-step reforms to give the American people the health care they deserve from the doctor they want at a price they can afford. Since when is it government's job to tell us anything about what doctor we go to, what price we pay, or anything else? We're not talking about reforms here. We're talking about government getting out of the marketplace, allowing free enterprise to work. And we have a lot of, and I listen to a lot of these Republican pundits on CNN and other stations, Fox, etc., all saying we've got to get rid of Obamacare because there's got to be a better way. Well, the better way, if your ear picks that up, means we'll have a Republican system instead of a Democrat system. Let me tell you how important this is in the overall scheme of things. And by the way, before I get off on that, I put out a video a couple of years ago on Obamacare. Most of the things I discussed in that video are still not being discussed by the Republican leadership. And I want to know why. They're talking about universal mandates. Some of them will go so far as to say it produces nearly 160 new government agencies, but nothing beyond that. They go to court. Why did they go to court? The court's the last place to get a good redress today based on some of the judges that they have. Obviously, they've got more judges than we have on our side of the equation on the Supreme Court, even if they call themselves conservative. At any rate, all sorts of different things in the newspapers trying to give us pause, or at least a majority of the people pause, before they get really upset over this decision. Oh, they're making it obvious now it's something that won't be affordable, and it's a tax, and now they'll repeal this in Congress, and on and on and on and on, but still keep the framework. Well, I'm sorry, the framework is the problem in and of itself. The things that I discussed in my video are serious problems and go way beyond the universal mandate, like abortion and euthanasia, mercy killing, that sort of thing. The idea that government can come into your home and tell you how to raise your children, reducing stress in the home, reducing stress on the job, reducing crime, making sure your children are educated. This is mandated ultimately for every house in the United States. That's in Obamacare. Why aren't they talking about those things? So these are questions that we have to ask. Why did they go to court over a universal mandate when there was so much else so wrong in this law? You know, keep in mind, it's a law that thick when you read it. That thick. The other thing about it is, and what makes this so important, is that medicine has always been a necessity to get under communist control if they mean to take over a country. They have to have the healthcare system under their control. Lenin, the communist leader of Russia, said that it is the capstone in the arch of the socialist state. That's how important it is, because they know that if they can get between you and your physician, they can control you. If they can get between you and your children and your doctor, they really can control you. So this is the point. If they can control medicine, whether you live, die, are well or ill, they can control you completely. That is how important this is. Another aspect of this that makes it so very important. If you had gone on the Security and Prosperity Partnership website at the Department of Commerce explaining what became known as the North American Union, the merger between Canada, the United States, and Mexico, you would discover that they want to merge the healthcare systems of the various countries. They want to merge the police, the military, the tax system, the banks, etc. You cannot merge a free enterprise with a socialist system like Canada has for healthcare. So you're going to have to change one or the other. They're not interested in getting rid of socialism in Canada. It's that simple. But they are interested in socializing the United States medical care. And that's the importance of Obamacare. If we maintain an independent system in the United States, a free enterprise system, they can't merge that. If we maintain local police departments, they can't merge it with the federales. And so a lot of these things that are going on out there seem to be independent issues, but they're not. They fit into this big mosaic of a plan that they have to merge the North American continent as only the first step towards merging into completely the United Nations. Obamacare is an integral part of that and why they need it. So it must be fought. We see, going into something different, talking about Mexico, that the PRI party is back in power in Mexico. That's the conservative party. Really, what the PRI is the conservative wing of communism in Mexico. If you saw that movie recently about the PRI and its suppression of the Catholic Church and that sort of thing in the 1920s, that is what's going on. They have all sorts of communists in the government under the banner of the PRI. But the Communist Party makes the PRI look conservative. Just like you've got the Republicans that want some form of Obama. The Democrats want a really draconian Obamacare. The communists get in the streets and make even the Democrats look conservative. So that's what's going on in Mexico. You have a Communist Party, the PRI, in control, and then all the other communist units make them look conservative. Anyway, they're back in power. It doesn't bode well for things as they are in Mexico and those things that are coming into our country as a result. Last but not least, we see another full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal from the Chinese government. And it says paid advertising, but it's all laid out as if it's all, the news. One thing, though, that you'll be happy to learn is that BRICS is going to be funding the International Monetary Fund. Now, BRICS, to remind you, is the acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. That's the new Soviet bloc. Now, you may not believe that, but all of these governments are ruled by a communist government. Now, they may not impose a draconian form at this moment, but they all are either communists or ex-communists parading as moderates. But at any rate, South Africa, a lot of people question about that government down there from the African National Congress. In fact, I've got it here. I'm not going to pull it up, showing Winnie Mandela being at the latest African National Congress in South Africa. One of the most vile individuals that ever walked the earth, Winnie Mandela. A woman who advocated the most horrendous forms of murder and torture on her own people. Finally, Winnie Mandela and Nelson Mandela got divorced. I don't know the reasons. Of course, I'd be afraid to fall asleep in front of that woman, particularly with her advocacy of what they called necklacing, which was to soak a tire in diesel or gasoline, put it over the head of an individual who was bound, set it afire, and allow him or her to die in that manner. I've seen video of a pregnant woman who was killed in that way while everybody was just thinking it was wonderful. And it was their way of getting control over all the Africans so that they could come to power in South Africa. Winnie Mandela, very, very terrible individual. Of course, she smiles, and when you smile, people think you're nice. She's not. Until next week, we'll see you then.